Hey, what's going on, my friends? Well, you can see I have my guest right here with me. I usually bring them on, but Susan, hey, what's up? Good morning.
Good morning.
So, as you guys kind of threw me off a little bit, I usually have kind of a little intro that I kind of can do in my
Pretend,
sleep.
just pretend I'm not here.
I can kind of do it in my sleep here, but golly, it's Monday. I'm thrown off. Okay, so as you guys can see from the title, okay, how to have success online, even if you're 60 plus. Um, what I've always said is that no matter your age, no matter your background, your ethnicity, culture, religion, whatever your beliefs are, whatever you look and sound like, the internet has a way of leveling the playing field for people. And oftentimes, some of the most unassuming people are the ones who have maybe the easiest success, if you want to say that, or the quickest to the start line, and then get going. There is no finish line. That's why I say the start line, because sometimes with us entrepreneurs, it's just getting to the start line that's oftentimes the problem. But today, and I want to say one more thing, even if you're not 60 plus, which I'm not, um, I want you guys to pay very close attention to this conversation because of what I just said, which is everybody has a story in their head. Everybody has well, I can't succeed because of this, or this is not a good fit for me because of that, or look at everybody else. And it's comparisonitis. And we're going to talk about a couple of different things. Susan, just so you know, I think it'll be really interesting to talk about obviously how to have success in your mindset, being where you're at in life, age wise, career wise, all that, but also the idea of no being not an option, and then also getting really clear on your target market. Those are kind of things that I think would be really cool to touch on. You are a blueprints and coaching client here at Legendary, also for full disclosure, but that's not why Susan's on the show this morning. She's on the show because she's a member of our community. She's gotten some early results, and she's serious about this business. And as I just said, this is her saying, not mine. No is not an option. Let's start there. What does that mean to you? Like, where did you hear that from, and how does that apply to what you're doing right now?
Um, well, this actually came from someone who used to work with me, and we, in communications, we ran really, really large, expensive events with very senior people as participants, and she would get. Part of her job would be getting things done. That was her job, to get things done. And some of them were, I would hear them, I would think that's impossible. Like that is just not going to happen. And I would say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know how you're going to get this done. And she'd say, well, you know what? No is not an option. And she would get it done.
Mm.
And it's really, I guess that's a mindset thing, right? It just, these were very difficult things, and she got them done. So lately I've been thinking a lot about her and thinking about my journey in affiliate marketing, because everything's kind of hard. Not everything. I was thinking about that. Everything is not hard. I'm sure I'm doing many things that they aren't hard, but I don't recognize them. I just, every time something gets hard, I think it's too hard. I can't do this. I'm too old. And then I think, no, it's not an option. And a big thing with me has been from the time before I started, other people are doing this. Other people teenagers are doing this. There's at least 180-year-old doing this. There's people from all over the world. So many different kinds of people are doing this. There's no reason I can't do this. Mm-hmm. And besides, I kind of have to. And so no is not an option.
And also, people are not just doing this here in Legendary. That's another important distinction. Yeah. We just happen to be a community in a ecosystem, a platform, a company, a training, whatever you want to call us. We are many things, but this is not just specific to Legendary. That's another thing that I think is really important for everybody to listen to, and to really hear, is that this is a business model that's being used in many different forms and fashions now, and it has been for the last decade. If you look at Airbnb, Airbnb acts as the middleman. If you look at Uber, they act as the middleman. They don't own the product. They simply connect the people who are looking for a ride to the people who have the cars. And that, so those are sort of bigger and a little bit more dynamic examples of affiliate marketing. But you also have multi-billion-dollar companies who have joint venture relationships with other companies. You have companies like Credit Karma, these credit score, mortgage companies, Amazon, Walmart, all of these different companies who also pay an affiliate commission, give you a unique tracking link that if you want to write blog posts or reviews or share it with friends and family or share it on your social media or share it to an email list, they'll pay you a commission if somebody clicks through your link and buys. We can then talk about selling information, which is sort of the big idea here. But just affiliate marketing alone is not just specific to Legendary Marketer. And I think when you say that like other people are doing this, not only other people, but companies that are right under our nose every single day, everywhere are doing this. And I almost think sometimes the opportunity is kind of so big, it's kind of like the elephant in the middle of the room that we don't notice. How has you have glasses on. I use that analogy a lot. Like you put on these glasses, these marketing glasses, and you see the world differently. How has the world changed in your eyes in terms of marketing and making money online and making money as a solopreneur, a one-woman show there? How has that evolved for you in the last few months or so?
Well, you have to understand, 3 months ago, I didn't know this existed, this kind of thing. And now I'm so awake to it because as you say, I see it, I get emails from companies unrelated to anything I'm doing here. And I think, oh, they're doing the same thing, right? So 3 months ago, I didn't know about this. And so it's a complete awakening for me. It's such a, there's just so much potential in it. And one thing there's potential in is, when I first looked into it, it came in through Kelly Olson, and I asked her, because I didn't understand it. It did take me a while to really understand it. But I said, so you're really just doing this so that you can sell Legendary Marketer? And she said, no, that's not it. That's not it at all. She said it more nicely than that. But it's so wide. And what she said she really liked about was she could really help people through it. And I thought, yeah, okay, you're doing this to make money. That's fine. We all have to make money, right?
Yeah.
But now I see. It's interesting. Yesterday, I told Kelly that how much she'd helped me and how I'm doing what I'm doing only because of her. If she hadn't been who she was when she was, I wouldn't be doing this. And she said, she answered, I can't tell you how happy that makes me to know I've helped somebody.
Yeah.
Right. And now I see, for me, this is also a way to really help people because my situation is not unique. I'm 60. I'm almost divorced. I've been separated for a couple of years. And my life is good and I'm not poor, but I don't have enough money for the kind of retirement that I want. I have enough money for a pretty, I don't know if it's impoverished, but not the kind of retirement I want at any rate. And there are a lot of people like me who exist. So I really am seeing this as a way to help people like me. So partly through promoting Legendary, but then there are lots of different ways to help people like me, like to open up their eyes to possibilities. And I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. So I'm starting with Legendary, but there's lots of things, lifestyle things, other financial things, I can see budgeting and, things that people maybe who are just getting divorced haven't done before. So I can see, I don't know how I'm going to access them or how I'm going to put it together yet, but that's what I want to do. I want to really help people, sincerely help people through this.
Well, First of all, I mean, there is a lot of different ways that you can help people just by teaching them various ways to generate extra income online.
Sure.
That's one. That's one way. Just, and I'm talking to everybody here, by the way. Um, the that tends to be a that tends to be a message and an offer that not too many people have a problem with, right? I mean, there's a lot of meaning that not too many people are not interested in that. Budgeting, saving, things like that can tend to be things that some people don't think particularly applies to them, or at least you kind of start teaching them that after you give them what they want up front and you give them what they need on the back end.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we sort of learn this as we go. Susan, at the beginning, we want to change the world. We start seeing this potential that we can help people. And then we realize that we have to help them in a certain way. We have to use our experience and knowledge to help them. And here's what I mean, is that oftentimes we can't give them what they need up front because they won't take that bait, right? So we have to give them what they want up front, which is, hey, here's how to make money. Here's how to generate extra income online from home. And then what happens is if we're good at and we want to give them the full picture, we begin to introduce these other pieces on the back end. Hey, here's how to think here's how to change your mindset. Yeah. Here's how to think about budgeting and saving. Here's how to think about living below your means. Here's how to think about, taxes, or I don't know, all these various things that are really important that quite frankly, a lot of us don't learn about in society or from our employers or from school. So I would just invite you all to keep that in your back pocket, that as you're looking to clarify your messaging out there online, if you're talking about things that are not like catnip, right? Like catnip, then it may not be as people may not bite as much as they would if you give them that catnip up front and then you introduce them. And that's how I've been able to build my businesses over the years, is giving people what they want up front, then still continuing to deliver on what they want, but then also giving them more of what they need as well. The skill sets, things of that nature, because I mean, quite frankly, Susan, there's no way to explain everything that somebody needs to have and develop. I mean, I don't even know what somebody is going to need to develop in order to do this, because we're all different. Some of us have things, skills, characteristics. Some of us have to develop them. But if you were to try to explain that to somebody before they got started with something that's low ticket, like maybe you started them out with an appetizer of $5 or $7 or $10 or $20 or $100, you tried to give them this full big picture. It's kind of like trying to explain everything somebody's gonna experience trying to become a doctor when they're sitting there in that guidance counselor office making a decision to go through and pursue that degree. It's just unrealistic. So, and it also will overwhelm people. So you have to clarify the message, which we'll transition to talking about that a little bit right now. You had mentioned in your questionnaire that you filled out for us before you came on that you think it's really important to clarify, who you're talking to. You said that you made your first commission right after you finished the 15-day challenge. Now, full disclosure, the customer was your personal trainer who's a little younger than you are and in the same situation that you are, knowing that she does not have the money saved for retirement that she wants. And this helped you decide on your target market, women 55 to 65 who are retired or close to retirement, and who know they don't have enough money saved for the retirement that they want. You said, I think being very clear on your target market and making it quite specific is key. How, combined with what I just said, right, which is, who the person is, now you combine that with what you're going to talk about with that person. How how do you plan on navigating the next few months as you continue to specify who you're talking to, and what you're going to talk to them about? And I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit because I'm also giving you ideas and feedback, but anyways, what's coming up for you around that question and that topic?
Well, so my background is a professional business communicator. That's what I am, and or that's what I have been. And part of that is a real planning role. So planning, strategic communications planning, and the two most important parts of that are really understanding your objective, what you're doing, what you want to achieve, not what you're doing, and understanding your audience, like in a very clear way. And then comes the messaging. So right now I'm clear on the first two, and I have to work on my messaging so what I've done is is not exactly in line with that, because I've spent the last couple of months learning. I've done the blueprints, and I've tried to. There's so much. There's just so much information. It's amazing, and it's overwhelming. And so I've learned so much. So I finished the blueprints. I'm starting with TikTok, but I just have this burning urge to get started. I don't know everything yet, and for me not to have my messaging down pat is really not good. But I thought I have to start TikTok. I could spend another month, 2 months figuring out my messaging, figuring out my content plan, all this. So I just decided a week ago, I was starting by Saturday. I was going to have my first TikToks on Saturday, and even by Saturday, I was still learning stuff, but I still didn't have my messaging down. So I just started. So I've done 10, I guess, TikToks, 3 a day and 1 this morning. And they're just kind of, I'm getting comfortable with it, right? I'm realizing, and it's kind of good that I did this now, because I understand it way better from having done it than I did before, before applying all this kind of theory to it, right? So I'm going to keep doing that and develop my messaging and content plan, because I just can't keep doing these off the cuff. It's kind of, they're not hard, but it's overwhelming for me to keep doing them repeatedly. So I want to batch them and schedule them, like I've heard other people talk about. So I don't know my messaging, but I will know my messaging, and it'll be very specific to the audience you described. And I've worked more on psychographic, like really looking at that. It's not too hard, because I'm really talking about me, but a bit broader than me, not exactly me. So does that answer?
It does. And you gave a lot of, I think, really well articulated, clarifying points for people work backwards here. First and foremost is, guys, start with talking to you. It's such a beautiful and very clear and simple way to put it. Just start by talking to yourself. If you're in your 30s, then talk about your life. Talk about what you're going through. If you're in your 40s, talk about that. If you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, talk about that. Talk about what it's like to live your life and the problems and the challenges that you go through. Because here's the thing that I think in telling our story gets a little bit lost, is that we're not really trying to tell our story. We're actually trying to tell our customer story. And we do that through telling our story. So we want, when they listen to what we say, we want them to say, man, I'm telling my story. And the first time that I really saw this was in recovery rooms, 12-step recovery rooms. AA, NA programs like that. And a speaker, there's a couple of different kind of 12-step meetings. Sometimes it's open discussion where people just share, hey, this is how my day's going, and this is some of the challenges I've had, and here's how I'm overcoming them, and thanks for letting me share. And other times it's a speaker meeting, which is kind of cool, because that's really where I learned and have heard some of the best speakers in the world, is right in those rooms, some of the best storytellers. And oftentimes when we would walk out of the room or discuss the speaker after, out in the smoke pit or whatever, because everybody goes out and they're smoking cigarettes and stuff. And one of the most common, and you really knew that the speaker hit home, if people were saying, man, I felt like he was telling my story. That's when you really knew that person connected with the speaker. Now, not everybody said that, right? Not everybody said that. There'd be a room of sometimes conventions, a couple of thousand people, and not 2,000 people are going to walk out of that room and say, but there's going to be a certain percentage that are going to really identify with that person's journey and their challenges. And so with us, when we're talking through our content, through our edutainment, that's the goal, is to have somebody say, wow, that person is really telling my story. Not by talking, and this is a big distinction, not by waving a finger and talking at somebody, not by telling somebody what to do, but by simply telling somebody your experience and then inviting them, if they are going through the same challenge and they're looking for a solution, I invite you to just click the link up below and take my free training, or get the free training, or get the free gift, right, that I have for you. I think it'll be really helpful, and I'll see you on the next video. It's really a simple process. What's coming up for you right now, Susan, as I'm walking through some of this stuff? From my perspective anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really interesting because you have the ability to connect with a lot of people. And I don't know that your story is that similar to a ton of people. I don't know. But you connected with me, and we don't have surface things in common, right? Really. But I mean, you really connected with me. And I think what I've realized, this is not the first time I've realized it, that everybody has problems, right? Everybody, and I think everybody has had, certainly by the time you get to 60, has had really bad problems in their life. And you don't know it. I used to think this when I was walking the dog in my neighborhood, where I knew a lot of people. And I'd look at these doors, I don't know why, but I'd look at these doors and I think, look at that nice house, but they're, and I'd look, and there were so many, but they've had this problem, they have this problem, they've had this problem. And you realize that people have awful problems. And it's kind of, with the whole social, and I'm much more on social media now than I used to be, but I'm on Facebook and whatever. I'm not anti-social media. But we all present our best lives, right? We're not basically talking about our problems. But everybody on there who's having this beautiful vacation, well, you used to have beautiful vacations in Paris or wherever, they're there to save their marriage, or they're there because they've been so ill, and now that, but most people are not just talking about that so much. So you get to know everybody's had a problem. So you've had a really significant challenge. I've had really significant challenges. And I think that's what resonates with people. So I think, I haven't studied, but that's what it feels like.
Well, if you ever pay attention as I'm saying this, many of you maybe will pay attention to this more over the next week. If you do have scoliosis, I am recovering from scoliosis. Sometimes I relapse, but and you're scrolling through your Facebook or whatever, you see, some guy taking a selfie in the gym, living my best life, my 5 or 6 likes. And then you see somebody who's like, just lost my mom, or having a really tough day today, just wish that, just wish I could get a break or something like that, right? 100 comments,
Yeah.
And here's why. Is because nobody likes to feel badly about themselves. Nobody likes to look at somebody else and think, wow, look at how much better that person's doing than me. Nobody likes that. Nobody goes on social media, even though, we pick and choose what we're inspired by. And mostly we're inspired by people that we don't know, because we don't know their problems, right? Yeah. But our friends and our family, and this is basic human psychology. So because we're community, village-oriented people, we live in communities. We typically know the people in our communities, and we know their problems. If that person's had marriage problems, or that person's kids got behavior problems, or that person's kid was held back in school, or that person's divorced, or whatever, right? So when we see somebody within our community who is we interpret is equal to us or even below us, struggling in that moment, we tend to lean into that person with more compassion and more connection, versus when we see a friend or a family member who's doing well, we will more likely scroll past that post and not engage with it. And that's where this whole idea as an entrepreneur that some of the people who are least likely to be happy for you are going to be your friends and family. And the reason is because everything that we see, we relate to ourselves. It's our self-absorbed nature as human beings. Our number one goal is self-preservation, right? So when we see somebody that we perceive is doing better than us, our first natural inclination is not to be happy for them. That's a learned skill, right? It's a learned skill for us. And that's something that we develop over time as we develop our abundant mindset. That's my experience anyways. It's not an opinion. That's just my experience, right? So how does that relate to marketing? Well, that relates to marketing because if you are only talking about your successes and how great your life is and how you also can help somebody else change their life, right? And you even identify what they're struggling with, right? But you don't inject your own pains and struggles so they can feel equal to you, so they can feel on the same page with you, so they can feel like you're not judging them or looking down on them. That's how I connect with people, is because I reveal my own pains, struggles, vulnerabilities. And that's really, if you want a great read and a great philosophy, look up Brené Brown.
Yeah.
She wrote a book called Daring Greatly, and she talks about vulnerability. And a lot of men in particular have a hard time grasping this concept. But what I just went through was sort of a miniature, my version of a master's level kind of, dialogue on or monologue on basic human psychology in how, certainly if we tell our story the way that we're talking about in market the way that we're talking about, we can connect with people at our age, but we can also connect with people who are lots of different ages. And that's likely how I connected with you and you connected with me. Anyways, what's coming up for you as I go through that?
Well, one is I love Brené Brown, and I think when you're talking about being vulnerable to our group, I think it would be great if everybody would pay a bit of attention to Brené Brown, because it really opens your eyes to the value in that, in being vulnerable. And also, well, anyway, I won't go beyond that, but she's really something. So I'm just going to give a little Brené Brown lecture, but it's not too useful. And for me, vulnerability is actually hard. Like I'm a pretty open person, except I don't like to talk about my problem. Like I don't think anybody's interested, and I don't, and I don't. It's not that I mind people knowing. It's that I don't feel that that's interesting. So it's a challenge for me. So when I did the copywriters part of it, well, the whole thing, I guess, quite early on, and wrote my story based on Matt's story. But I did it based on Matt's story. I'm realizing, like, I didn't, not his, like my facts, but not from my heart, I think.
Yeah.
So I think I need to go back and look at it and bring that vulnerability into it instead of just being a litany of facts. And it's interesting because I do struggle with that. And when you talk about it, it's so real and it's so, yeah. I mean, you just can feel this compassion and for who you were, and this admiration for who you've become. And yeah, I need to get more. You're right. I need to get more vulnerable.
This is another thing that I think is a useful way, because again, this is all just putting on the marketing lenses, right? I mean, this is all stuff that as I've taken off my consumer / the way that the world thinks and has taught me how to communicate. And I put on my marketing glasses and my basic human psychology, whether it's, there's 6 major forms of psychology that's been taught, from, you know, uh, all the way back from Freud and some of those guys, up into, Maslow and so forth. And when we also take a look at some of that stuff and just kind of what makes people tick, um, we can understand that we I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that it's a lot simpler than what I used to make it out to be. I used to think that persuasion and influence and all the majority of people who are talking about teaching like those kind of things, they are not very persuasive people, right? They, like, I know a guy who, one particular gentleman's coming to mind, and he's a persuasion and a closing teacher and a speaking teacher, and I can tell that he's just not very in touch with his own feelings, and that makes it hard to connect with him. And so, plug for therapy. I also think that, I also think a lot of, for me, just my own recovery work from recovering from drug addiction and homelessness and some low grade mental illness and so forth, right? I wouldn't consider myself clinically depressed, but I've experienced depression. I wouldn't consider myself on the extreme scale of bipolar, but I can get a little manic sometimes, I wouldn't consider myself debilitated from anxiety, but I got anxiety. I mean, my hands just sweat all the time, my sons do too. I think it might be genetic. He's like 5 months old and his palms, I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, this, get the, so my point here is that, persuading people is a lot less about learning the trick and doing it perfectly, and more just about getting in touch with my own feelings. And as a man, we just don't feel our feelings. I mean, if I was to ask a room full of men, what are you feeling right now? Most wouldn't be able to identify. They'd say things like, I'm feeling okay. And okay is not a feeling. Right? So sometimes it's just really about getting in touch with our feelings and then just sharing them authentically. The other thing that I wanted to say was that in terms of helping people, you said that at the beginning of the conversation, I really enjoy the idea and the opportunity to help people and not just sell them. And I have a belief that when I sell somebody something, I am helping them. Now that's a frame that I choose to put selling because that's an empowering frame that allows me to have a lot of conviction around selling and making it easy for people to give me money and check out and pay for things, right? Versus selling's icky. You're not going to attract a lot of money into your life if you think that. So I think that whenever I give somebody a chance to say yes to themselves, to say yes to a dream, to say yes to investing in themselves, I always know that investing in yourself is the best investment you can make. I actually believe it's very difficult for somebody to have overwhelming help or transformation or change in their life without, in our society, the way money is plays such a dominant role, it's hard for people to actually change without spending money, whether that be for therapy or just this morning I texted my old trainer because I'm going back to the gym. It's like, I need accountability. Yeah. So anyways, have you ever had any attachments or frames that you've framed selling in that has made it more difficult to be in sales and marketing? And I'm just asking because I hear that a lot from people, and I just wonder if you have at all ever experienced that.
Absolutely with sales, not marketing. I mean, I have a bit of a marketing background, but that's not the that's not getting to the close. That's not the convincing or the persuade, right? It's not that part of it. It's persuading, but yeah, I have until, this is not the first time I've had I guess it's funny. I'm having trouble thinking of myself as an entrepreneur, but it's not my first entrepreneurial venture. I tried to be a communications consultant for a while, and I found it very difficult because you have to sell yourself. That's what you're selling, really.
Totally.
Right? And
you are the number one salesperson.
Yeah.
Usually you have to take the payment.
Exactly. You are everything in that kind of bit. It's a great way that this is not like that. And so I had a lot of trouble with that, and I got over it a bit as I went through it. That business didn't really last too long because of my life, but I was starting to get over it a bit, and just sort of a lot of times I have to tell myself to get over myself, right? Like I am definitely when I talk about no is not an option, the person who's saying no to me is me.
Sure.
Right. And because if you said no to me, then I'd think about it. I think, well, then maybe he doesn't understand what I'm saying, but I say no to myself all the time. And I said, no, I can't sell for a long time. No, I couldn't look at jobs that involve sales. No, there's no way. And I did that really pretty much till now. And, but now I'm seeing it differently. What you just said was clarifying. And also I'm feeling excited about when I get to the point on TikTok where people are asking me questions, and I can talk with them, about their situation and share my situation, and, and get more into the connecting and explaining.
What if your assignment today was to go offer a coaching package for $10,000 and collect payment and enroll one client this month? Do you think that would be, what do you think that experience would be like for you?
Okay. So I think I might be able to do it, but do I think I could deliver it? Right. That's the question, right? To actually,
sure, of course. Yeah. Tell us the story that I like this because it's literally you're telling us the story that's happening inside of your head right now, and that's
and it's in my body. I'm now.
You're like, oh my God, Dave, don't give me that assignment live on this.
That's right. He's not going to really do this, is he? He's not going to give me this assignment. But no, what I'm thinking is, there's no problem for me coming up with a message and researching it. I know enough about this now, to, I think, do a lot about packaging it, but then actually delivering that kind of value. I don't even know how I could sit down and do a live right now, a TikTok live, and answer questions, let alone, put myself out there as a $10,000 consultant. But yeah, I could probably, I don't know, I might be, it's not impossible. No, I don't think the selling part is impossible. It's the delivery part that I'm having trouble with.
Well, delivery, we realize is a lot of actually delivering on coaching is really one of the easiest things. Once you get over yourself, you can breathe. There you go. Take a big deep breath. Oxygen is good.
I just have a little breakdown on camera.
Oxygen is good. She's taking off her scarf. Is it hot in here? I don't know. I'm not there. So it's a fun exercise to think about. Yeah. I think that doing things that scare you is important, and to do them often and early on, you're always going to be your best salesperson as well. That's another thing to remember, is you're always going to be your best salesperson. Nobody's going to be as interested and passionate about the delivery as you are. Nobody's going to be as interested. Lori said I'd panic also, Susan, if he had done that when I was on.
She's so great.
But, nobody's going to be as interested. You are always going to be your number one marketing agent. You're going to be your number one salesperson. You're going to be your number one customer support person. And it's again, we're looking to attach empowering meanings, okay, to events. That's one of the big mindset shifts. The problem with mindset is there's a lot of people on Instagram, for example, and in TikTok or whatever, talking about mindset. But what does mindset mean? Well, mindset, for example, one example of transitioning and developing our money mindset, if you will, is to attach empowering meanings to things, right? So, for example, there's the story of the lady who was absolutely terrified to go on stage and speak in front of a group of people. And when she got on stage, she would do what you just did. A hot flash would come over her body. The palms would light up and start dripping. The pits would start. I mean, it was like a shower, a faucet, kind of like I am all the time, right? That's why I wear black shirts, so my sweat doesn't show on my body. But it's not because maybe I am nervous and I don't know. I just push through it. I probably am. I probably have anxiety and I just push through it anyways. But and she said this is how I know that her stomach would turn, like she'd had to go to the bathroom, and she said this is how she was describing this is how I know I'm about to have a breakdown. This is how I know I'm about to screw this up. And then they did an interview. Somebody did an interview. This was a segment with some interviewer. I don't remember the interviewer, just the story. And they interviewed Bono, the lead singer of U2. And he said, "Oh man, when I'm getting ready to go on stage, my palms, they start dripping, my armpits, my stomach starts turning, and that's how I know I'm about to go out. That's how I know I'm really ready. I'm really alive. I'm really ready to go out there and crush it."
Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So it's like what meaning do we want to attach to an event? Yeah. And for me, I've done things, and that's why this conclusion that I came to. I studied and I'm about to release a training on this. It's going to be an updated version of a current training that we offer, but it's so I went through and I've studied all 6 perspectives of psychology, okay? Biological, psychodynamic, humanistic, cognitive, evolutionary, behaviorist. I mean, and there's just so much information on all of them. And the big conclusion that I came to was this. You can't think yourself into a new way of acting. You have to act. Actualize means make reality of. Act yourself into a new way of thinking, which means that you can't sit there and go, "There's no weeds in my lawn. There's no weeds in my lawn. There's no weeds in my lawn." You can't sit there and go, "I got big muscles. I got big muscles. I got big muscles." I mean, you could say that and walk around like you got big muscles, but it's not going to be the reality. And that may be the mindset that you have. And that's cool. That's maybe you've achieved the goal by doing that. But the same way I can't sit around and go, "I'm good at sales," or I can take $10,000 payments. I can take $10,000 payments. I can take 10,000. There's no external reinforcement that anchors that. And in order to make something become part of our DNA and then to actually land in our neural pathways of our brain, which are the little things in our brain that, when I'm getting ready to say, okay, the price is $10,000, my brain is either going to say, right before I say that, "Get the hell out of here. You're not worth that. No, oh my God. Hey, I got to go to the bathroom. Can I call you back?" Or, it's going to say, hey, it's not even going to say anything. It's just going to spit it out and just go, you're not even going to be in your head. And the only way to get over that and to rewire your brain if you have a different reaction to that sort of a situation is just to do it, is to act yourself into a new way of thinking. And I learned that when I was getting clean from drugs, because I was trying to think myself into it. I was like, I can outsmart this thing. Look, I'll only use on the weekends. I'll downgrade from heroin to marijuana. You know what I mean? I'll have one shot with dinner. That's what's funny. I'll just shoot up for dinner, kind of like people have a glass of wine, right? I'll just use heroin socially. You know, all of these ridiculous things were things that I was like, I can think my way in out of this hole that I'm in. And I had to act my way into a new way of thinking, meaning that I had to get abstinent. And then over time, if I did that for enough days, there was no way around it. There was not a secret. It was just I had to get abstinent. And then once I got abstinent, over time, I believed that I could stay sober.
Yeah. Wow.
It's just the same thing applies with every single person who asks for a $10,000 payment. The first time they do it and somebody actually pays, they go, I cannot fucking believe that person just gave me $10,000.
Yes. I can imagine.
You know what I mean? Like every single time. And there's why do we always, it's always this, and you're in this phase right now. So this is why I'm so interested, why I love doing these shows, because you're in this spot right now that you see this big, you see all these different things in your way. You got to learn enough. You got to be ready to do the delivery. You got it right. There's all these things that you think you need to do. And part of the dirty little secret about entrepreneurship is you just figure it out as you go.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I hadn't thought of that.
You know what I mean? And sure, certainly having some training to where you understand some of the fundamentals and it helps you to know where to go to, it's sort of like bringing a horse to water, but the horse has to just stick. In the first time the horse drinks, he's going to stick his whole head down in and it's going to be, he's going to be like, like, what was that? We, in a sense, at Legendary, we bring horses to water, and then they just got to dunk their head down in. And then kind of we figure it out as we go, because different situations are going to come up for different people. But how is that sort of uncertainty really uncomfortable for you? Would you say personally?
Yes, uncertainty is very uncomfortable. Yeah. I certainly don't think that's unique, but yeah.
Yeah, right. No, it's not.
But yes. And I was just thinking, when you're talking about, your idea of acting, I think I told you this. I did a kind of therapy called ACT therapy, and I can't actually remember what it stands for, but actualization is the first word. And it's a really, even the therapist called it, getting up off your rear end and doing something, because you can only talk about your problems for so long.
Right. Yeah.
And where they came from. And, but something that she talked about, the therapist talked about, was the thoughts in your head, right? Because the thoughts in my head are saying, are you crazy? You're 60 years old. What are you doing? It's like, you're fine, you're great. But anyway, and she just said, your brain is a thought maker. It just makes thoughts. It doesn't mean they're true. Yeah, it's his job. It just makes thoughts. Doesn't mean they're true. You don't have to listen to it. And the whole thing with ACT, a lot of it is the senses. Like, pay attention to what your senses tell you, more than, which has helped me a lot. It's a lot for me about anxiety. So, but it's in it. But ACT, I completely agree. You got to do it. Informed my therapy. You just have to do it. So.
Well, there was a study that I read that said a human has 6,200 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
6,200 thoughts a day, right? And
probably most of them aren't that supportive.
No, I mean, and I was working on this new training that I'm going to release here soon. It's just going to replace the attraction code, and it's something that we're going to put in our front end funnel, and we'll probably charge $50 to $100 for it, but it'll probably be worth, it'll probably be the most valuable thing people go through, because of the importance of developing developing your mindset. And again, I hate using that word because it's so overused that we undervalue it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, 6,200 thoughts a day, and the majority of them are completely useless.
Yeah.
If not all of them.
Yeah.
if not all of them at a certain point. I can remember when I was getting clean from my addiction, and every single thought was completely useless, until it wasn't,
Yeah.
until it wasn't. And then even today now, I have a lot of useless thoughts. My wife will say something to me, and I'll have 4 or 5, maybe a dozen useless thoughts that goes through my head when she maybe asks me to do something, right? That I thankfully now have learned to not vocalize those thoughts. There's a comedian named Mark Lundholm who's a recovery comedian, and he goes and does comedy shows for recovery conventions and stuff, and he has this kind of joke sequence called First Thought Wrong, right? And it's kind of that philosophy of like first thought wrong, like second thought, and then he kind of goes third thought, fourth thought, fifth thought, sixth thought wrong, and it's really true. It's like I think part of approaching this business is can I really trust my thinking? I can trust my instincts, because my instincts, I really do have good survival instincts. You do too. We all do. Those are millions of years old, and they've been developed in us. We have parts in our brain, the amygdala, all that's like fight or flight. It will get you out of a burning building if there's a way to get out. But our brains over the 2 decades that the computer has been around, and the 1 year or 2 years that TikTok has been around, have not developed the function to say that it's okay to record that video and post it. You're not going to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a new thing for human beings to be dealing with, this whole social media and the fear of rejection and what are other people going to think. And the truth is that nobody's really going to see your shit in the beginning anyway, so it doesn't even matter.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I mean, nobody even, and then the truth of the matter is that, and this is why direct response marketing is such a timeless marketing strategy, which is the idea that we're marketing directly to a specific person, species, a specific person with a specific offer, and we're asking them for a specific direct response. The reason why that marketing technique or philosophy is so important and timeless, but even more important now today than it ever has been before, is because attention spans are so short. So the majority of what you're going to get nowadays in terms of a response is going to happen from the first time they see the content. Like, it's not like, oh, there's a couple of dozen TikTok videos out there and they see that same one. No, it's like, so usually if you put out something that it doesn't really hit, nobody's going to remember it in 0.75 seconds because they've literally moved on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yes. So we put this sort of what I do as if we're like, as if we're making a presidential address that's going to be, that's going to be go down in the historical archives. You know what I mean? Like, yes. Somebody's going to be recording this, and the eyes of the world are on us when we go to make a TikTok video. And I mean, I'm not trying to say that what you do doesn't matter and what I do doesn't matter, but it's just not that big of a deal nowadays.
Yeah. Yes. It's really something important to think about. Yes.
It's just we're not, and it's not anything except just it's just not that. We don't have to take ourselves that seriously. There's room. I'd say there's room to learn as you go in this business, and I think that's really important for you to hear, but also for others to hear, because we get into lifetime learner mode, and we think we have to really be perfect before we start, and we don't.
Yes.
So any final thoughts from you that you think would be important? I'd like, one question that I have is, if somebody was sitting on a checkout page, making a decision to get involved with Legendary, what would you tell them based on your experience here?
Oh, well, I have been telling people because I keep telling people about this in my life. And because what happened to me was I did sign up for the $7 challenge and spent about $200 that night. And every single thing I paid for, the value is unbelievable. Everything I experienced through Legendary has such huge value. I really can't believe it. I was listening to you talking about $1 TikTok training or something. The value is so huge of something like our copywriters. That's $1, isn't it? $1, that's 1,000, that's 10,000, whatever. The value with Legendary is kind of unimaginable to me. And yeah, I didn't really do much research. I just decided. My daughter sent me a Kelly Olson on TikTok. She said, maybe you'd be interested in this, Mom. And I looked at it, thought about it for a week, and got up off the sofa one night and said, I am doing that, and I'm really doing it. And so I did. I paid for everything. I signed up for everything. And, and here I am today doing things I'd never even heard of 3 months ago. 3 months ago, I was looking for a job, work from home. And I almost took a job doing customer service for minimum wage. Right? And now I'm doing this. So because of Legendary. And I guess there are, because you say it, I've heard you say there are other companies that do this. I don't know who they are. And I don't know why anybody would go to them, because the value you get from Legendary is just phenomenal. And I just really want to say I'm grateful to you and Matt and Drew, everybody, Roxy I've encountered now, and then also the people in this community, because it really is a community. And I'm getting that more and more, with Kelly and Lori and Mark and other people who are being supportive, and I hope I can be supportive to them. So it's really community, and you've built a beautiful thing, and so I want to thank you.
Well, thank you for saying such kind words.
Just true.
You are already giving them value, and you're doing so in this moment, and that's one of the things that is also really important for us. I like to point things out. I know sometimes I point the obvious out, but sometimes things aren't real until we say them, and I think a lot of us, let me speak for myself. I used to go through life and just kind of just experience things, and even appreciate things, and even appreciate people, but I didn't say that. And I also didn't, I didn't say things that, so they were almost like this unspoken thing. And then what I see happen in life is then somebody dies, and we tell them all the things that maybe we should have told them when they were alive. And I'm not trying to get so sentimental and morbid, but the reason why I'm saying that is just because, it's important to, I think, in this journey, in any journey, to have supportive people around us that will validate what we're doing with words. And even if they want to take it to the next level, figure out how we feel love and do that, right? I'm an affirmation person, so you can show me love by verbalizing that love. My wife is a service-oriented person, so I can take out the trash. And even though I, sometimes have lots of first thought wrongs when she asks me to take out the trash, or reminds me when I've literally got it in my calendar on my phone to do it. But I take it out and she feels loved, right? So I say that you're giving value. You're doing it right today. You've been doing it now. So when you came on this show, you can talk about the things that you've talked about. You've taken the actions, you've invested, went through training, you've taken action. I mean, you're literally a wonderful inspiration example of how to get a good start, right? To not just hang out in the training for a couple of decades, or, get ready, or totally skip any training and go right out there and then come back and say, this ain't working, or whatever. Right. And yeah. It's like, you're really offering a lot of value that we're showcasing today, but also we'll showcase in a follow-up email next weekend. And then it'll be on the podcast, and who knows, maybe we'll put it in the new challenge update and say, because it's been a really powerful mindset thing. But thank you for the value that you are providing because of the action that you've taken. It's really important to spotlight that. It's not just it's not just happening by osmosis. You didn't just land in the chair and on the live, and now all of a sudden you're imparting all this value. But it's I hope that you can take from this show some confidence now to go out and clarify your message, and then turn up the volume.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much for this.
All right. Well, thank you, Susan. And I'm going to let you off without any heart attack assignments or
Thank
anything.
you.
I'll save those for later. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you, and we'll talk to you later. All right.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Dave. Bye-bye.
Well, that'll be fun to have her back on in a couple of months, if she's willing, and continue to get an update about her journey, which I think she's still listening. I wanted to make sure she heard that as well, because there's a lot of things that are happening in this company and community right now, and part of that is just pieces of accountability spread out over time. There's a saying that says Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was your company, neither is my companies, anybody's companies were not built in a day. And over time, with the right accountability, community support, basically the right information from the right people in the right environment, you can go as high as you want to go. And I say that because now certainly there's a lot of people who say, "Oh, I'm a self-made millionaire." The truth is that we all have an incredible amount of help and support as we go. Okay. And I just want to thank every one of you guys who are willing to come on the show and share your wisdom and your value. And I really invite all of you guys who are listening to think about the value that you're gonna give back when you come on the show in the future as well. And I hope to be able to have all of you guys to give you that platform to showcase your action and the results that you have earned. Even if they're not significant in your eyes, the truth is they are significant. They're much more significant than probably what you're giving yourself credit for. This is a journey. It's not about a destination. They're simply milestones along the way. And sometimes taking a moment, we do it every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time to celebrate those wins with a new member of our community here, is what this is all about. All right. So you guys have a fantastic Monday. Let's have a kick-ass week. And we'll see you guys back here tomorrow for another episode. Get the hell out of here. Be great. Be legendary. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.